Hi there, Dr. Byrne here. This will be the final one-take video. This is going to be on Watchmen. So now you have a complete set of all of the videos for the course, even though it's officially over. But I wanted to make sure you had a complete set. Anyway, so I appreciate you indulging me in my little experiment here and trying to do videos for all the films. I know it's been hit and miss. Some of them have been more babble than others. So just one more time to listen to me babble away about books and bibliophilia and other things. So in a moment we'll look at Watchmen. I'm going to try to show you some panels. I'm not sure how it's going to translate on camera, but I do want to make that attempt in terms of dealing with the topic of graphic novels. Um, so in a sense, again, I'll be showing you panels. So you'll be watching me watch The Watchmen in terms of reading, filming me reading Watchmen. So bear with me one more time. So, but first, before I want to get to graphic novels, I want to talk about precursors to graphic novels. In particular, I'll be looking at two visual art forms or art objects from the 18th century, which are, I would claim, precursors to graphic novels in terms of working out a lot of the issues that graphic novels need to deal with in terms of the relationship between the text and the image. So first, what I want to look at is a big book, portfolio book, engravings by William Hogarth. He was an engraver, made what were called at the time prints for common consumption. So prints were a very popular visual form in the 18th century. Um, Often, I mean, there would be print shops, places where people would publish and then display prints that people would come and look at and often buy, and then they would take their print home and they would either frame it or just tack it to the wall as decoration or what have you. Many prints were purely entertaining. Some of them were educational. Some of them were political in nature, political commentary, and uh, and actually the ones I'm going to show you from Hogarth are an example of really all of those. Hogarth did a number of series. I mean, each print itself, in terms of the level of detail, would tell a story. But occasionally, Hogarth and others would do a series of prints that told a story together. And one of them is this one here. Um, this is the first plate of Industry in Idleness, which was an allegory intended to basically inculcate bourgeois values in apprentices. And as I tell you how the story plays out, you'll see what I mean by that. Here are the first one. Most of these plates either deal with the industrious apprentice or the lazy apprentice. But in this first one, the print sets them up and contrasts them. I'm not going to elaborate on the details in the image here, but there's all sorts of iconographical detail indicating this industrious apprentice is in fact industrious and a good man and is going to do well. Whereas this one, who's not industrious at all because he's sleeping here and the cat's playing with his loom and he's got his beer stein over here. He's probably drunk because he just he's telling all the world that that he's lazy and his overseer here is about to chastise him or fire him. Other details in the image here, proverbs from the Bible, one praising industry, the other one criticizing laziness. But also there's details outside the frame here that indicate the ultimate fate of these two figures. This one has, I think, the robes of an alderman and the chain of the Lord Mayor, which is the highest political office for a bourgeois or someone of this class. Um, outside of Parliament, of course. And this one, there's a noose, there's chains, there's shackles, showing his ultimate fate. Um, Here, just an example. This plate shows the industrious um, apprentice going to church, being a good churchgoer. Meanwhile, the lazy apprentice is in the churchyard. You can tell by the skulls. Playing gambling and playing dice on top of the graves of dead people. So, yeah, neither of these are going in he's not going in a good direction. It eventually comes down to the industrious apprentice gets promoted and later becomes an alderman, and so a judge. That's him here. Meanwhile, the lazy apprentice has turned to a life of crime, has been caught. No mercy here for the lazy one. Oh, I should also say there's all sorts of little details in the background that sort of deal with the corruption of the legal system and such. Here's the ultimate fate of the lazy apprentice. He's going to be hanged at Tyburn, which in the 18th century was a basically a festival day. People would come out and have their little picnics and watch someone get hanged. Meanwhile, the industrious apprentice has been made Lord Mayor, so he has made it. So again, a story that's meant to sort of inculcate or teach people the values, bourgeois values of industry, hard work. And this is basically, this was made at the beginning of capitalism. So those were two of the main core values of capitalism. So very ideological. Okay, the other thing I want to show you before I run out of too much time here is by William Blake, who was an illustrator and poet, an engraver like Hogarth, had made his living in terms of what he illustrating books and creating prints and whatnot. This is Blake's illustrations to Night Thoughts by Edward Young. This was like a huge bestseller in the 18th century. Nobody reads it anymore. Arguably, Blake's images have survived, and the poem is lapsing into oblivion. So let's look at some of this. Okay. So again, I in my one-take video on Fantastic Mr. Fox, I talked about the tension between text and image in illustrated children's books. Well, that's not just for children's books, it's also for adult books, like this one. Here, this is an unusual design for a book illustration in that there are no discrete illustrations. There, in fact, there is one big design, two-page design, and the text is inserted within it. Well, that forced Blake to be creative in terms of how he created his designs. Here you have the figure of death. You can tell by his sickle. And here he is on one side of the page. You see him front up, but then you see his departure here. So there's movement across the page in terms of this one figure. Right. Okay. There are other death figures in the book. Here's another one, which is sort of remarkable in terms of the figure is really hiding behind the text, which is in a sense a commentary upon the text and the relationship of the illustration to the text. Okay. All right. This next page, again, we see death again. We see him moving. This is the third page after the two you just saw. But it also has this image here, which is I call her a censorious figure. She stands for conscience, and so even while the guy is drunk, conscience is watching and writing. But what I find interesting about this is that she's not looking at him; she's looking at the text, as if she's a censor of the text. And so again, I think Blake's making a statement there about that. Okay, showed you that one. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I'm calling this a precursor of a graphic novel, mostly because of the dominance or the precedence of the illustration over the text. So moving along. Um, those are 18th century precursors. So let's talk about graphic novels now. First of all, the other day when I said on a video, I told you I had found a load of free books in the mailroom at Taws, and I took a lot of them. One of them was this, The Influencing Machine, um, Brooke Gladstone on the Media. Um, this is it's billed as a graphic novel. In fact, it says on the back here, it was on the New York Times graphic novel bestseller list for 8 weeks. But it's not a novel. It's actually a history of the media. So, but it is, illustrated. Here's part of the book. This is dealing with the beginning of the modern newspaper industry. So, some of you may have actually read this. This was a University of Maryland first year book selection. I think this was 2012. So some of you may have seen this. Incoming freshmen, I think, get these books. So some of you may be familiar with it. But anyway, graphic novel, but not really a novel. But it does indicate the popularity of the form. Okay. Now I'm going to look at 2 books quickly of Alan Moore. Again, he's created a lot of graphic novels. Many of them have been made into films, including this one, which is a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was made into a film. It was a terrible film. Now a major motion picture with Sean Connery and others. It was live action. It was just really bad. Um, so that's probably part of why Alan Moore is so pissed off at Hollywood for messing with his books. But the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it takes characters from 19th century novels, adventure novels mostly. Also, this is Captain Nemo, Jules Verne. 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Anyway, and they become like secret agents. And this is, I think, Mycroft Holmes, brother of Sherlock Holmes. And he's the sort of ringleader. It's an interesting story. But one of the things I want to say about this is that as much as Alan Moore despises Hollywood and film, you can see a lot of influence in the artwork here by Kevin O'Neill. That's really sort of cinematic. Let me show you what I mean. That's not what I mean. All right, Mycroft Holmes, Mina Murray. Here's one example of sort of a cinematic moment. This is Captain Nemo's submarine. It's surfacing. And this is what in film you'd call dissolve, because immediately then we go to this, which is the bubbles from actually from the submarine going back down, because now Mina Murray, who was the passenger, has gotten out. And she's gone to find Alan Quatermain in a opium den in Cairo. And that's it. You don't usually get this sort of graph in terms of these small boxes, and so many of them. This is sort of the equivalent in sort of speeding up cuts in the editing as to build up suspense. Actually, Mina Murray's about to be attacked by 2 men, and Alan Quatermain, who seems to be totally stoned on opium, gets up and shoots them and saves the day and what have you. But I just wanted to show you that the again, sort of recreating a sense of editing, which keeps the pace going. Other pages are more normal in terms of the way they break up or block the text. Here we give special full page precedence to the Nautilus, Captain Nemo's ship. And more of the same. Quite violent, but fun. Okay. Oh, yikes, I'm running out of time again. So the opposite for Watchmen in terms of anti-cinematic, in terms of its intertextuality. On this page, you have, a lot of different things going on. But one is, you got the Tale of the Black Freighter, which is interspersed with these thugs who are talking about current events, and they're about to go kill the first night owl. And more of the same here. But when they attack the old Night Owl, the guy who does all the writing about the Watchmen, it's interlaced with um, old time comic versions of when he was a hero. And he's winning here, but in the other panels, he's getting the crap beat out of him and he's getting killed. So uh, I think I'm going to stop because I think this won't load. Anyway, it's been great. See ya.